Rev up your engines!
I talk about Nissan and their problems with cars. Hey, they got problems with everything. Their former CEO recently just escaped from Japan. The Japanese had him awaiting trial on 2 trials in Tokyo. Supposedly, they had round-the-clock restrictions on his freedom of movement, but he escaped and ended in Lebanon. I guess he's from Lebanon originally. There, the guy's name is Ghosn. He said he decried the injustice of the Japanese judicial system, that he wasn't guilty of anything, so he escaped to Lebanon. So far, the rumors go that he smuggled himself out in a large musical instrument box that was mailed to Lebanon in a plane. What it really comes down to is the guy knew he was going to be convicted in Japan. He probably did all kinds of fraud with Nissan, and they probably can't send him back to Japan. He didn't kill anybody, right? He did some sleazy business deals, and then he flew away to Lebanon to escape the Japanese authorities. I can't see the Japanese doing like the Israelis and having underground guys smuggle in and then grab them and pull them back to the country. I guess the Japanese are probably just going to say, oh, well, maybe good riddance. He was the ex-CEO of Nissan after all. He wasn't the present sitting one. Only a company like Nissan is going to have something like that go on. Some of the Germans escaped from the United States to Germany with that Volkswagen fraud stuff, but there are some of the Germans that were tried in Germany are in prison in Germany now, so. But I doubt that anybody's going to go after this Lebanese guy. He's probably just going to sit there and evade the Japanese authorities for whatever financial fraud he was pulling when he was the CEO of Nissan. Crap Blue Light says, Scotty, a friend of mine told me something you might be interested. He works for GM designing engines and transmission. He and his team came up with a V8 design that'd be as reliable as a Toyota. He said with regular driving, conservative towing, it could last 200,000 to 300,000 miles. But GM told him they wouldn't make any money off of that long term, and they went with a smaller, crappy engine. He was kind of mad about it. I'd be kind of mad about it, too. That's the problem when you work for someone else, especially a large corporation. You got to go by what they want to do. That's why Scotty works for himself, by himself. Hey, the only person I really take orders from is my wife. Planned obsolescence is part of the ball game. Plus, they're getting more and more tied up with the fantasy of gas mileage ratings. And you got to remember, it's ratings, because you're talking about GM and a big truck. Well, what did they come up with a short time ago? They put 4-cylinder engines in them. Now, the ratings are higher because it's done on a dyno, blah, 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 blah. In the real world, when you got a big truck with a 4-cylinder engine and you start pulling or towing stuff, the gas mileage goes, and they don't test them that way. They don't test them pulling stuff. They don't test them with a lot of weight in them. And now they test them on dynamometers, which is a false reading, because that's not the real world. The real world's completely different. So, a lot of it, you even think, well, I'm going to get better gas mileage. Well, if you tow and pull a lot, no, you're going to get worse gas mileage. So, don't get fooled in by a lot of that rating stuff. Look at the real world stuff. Find somebody who actually owns one. See what actually comes out in it. Don't be fooled by a rating that doesn't mean because it's on paper. It's not in the real world. Fred's a bit late says, got a 2015 Lincoln all-wheel drive V6, and I got P0420 code for the inefficient catalytic converter. I don't want to buy an expensive catalytic converter. Or something else it could be. Yes, there definitely is. Here's how the system works. There's an oxygen sensor that's before the catalytic converter, and there's one after. Now, they work in tandem to measure how efficient the catalytic converter is working. When you get an inefficient catalytic converter code, on that vehicle especially, the second oxygen sensor, the one that's after the catalytic converter, not the one before it, but the one after it, because the one after it really is doing most of the measurement of is the cat efficient. Now, you said what? It's a 2015. So, I would say just buy a new oxygen sensor for the rear and put it on. And if it goes away, great. Then you won't have to buy that super expensive catalytic converter. And if you do like I do, hey, if you go to a place like AutoZone and buy the oxygen sensor, and let's say you put it on, it doesn't fix it, they're very liberal with their return policies. You can take it off and send it back to them. They'll often give you your money back. A lot of these companies are very liberal with their parts. You can say, well, it didn't work, and give it back to them, and most of the time you can get your money back, so you're not even gambling with the part. But I'd say in my experience with those things, 70-80% of the time, when they have a code like that and you change the back sensor, it fixes the problem, because they go bad a lot, and they just give a false reading, and then the computer thinks the catalytic converter is bad, but it's really the sensors giving wrong data. So it confuses the computer and it thinks the cat's not working when it's really the oxygen sensor. You know, you think they have software that could really tell you, pinpoint it exactly, but that's generic stuff. All those PO codes, the PO means it's a generic code that there could be many different causes for. Tim62 says, 05 Grand Prix, 3800, 145,000 miles. Blows cold air, the coolant level is good, new thermostat, any help? You got the thermostat, you're full of coolant, there's no air in the system. Then, if your heater's not working, generally it's one of two things. Either the heater core itself is clogged up, or you got a blend door problem somewhere inside the dash. Modern cars like that, water always flows through the heater. It's always full of hot water. There isn't a valve that opens and closes to let the hot water in and out. There's always hot water inside. What makes it hot or cold in your face is there's blend doors. And when you want heat, you turn it to heat, and then a little motor opens the blend doors. Then the air blows inside the heater and blows heat in your face. And when you turn the heat off, the blend doors close, so the box is sealed, and even though there's hot air inside the box, it's not blowing in your face. What you want to do is, first, just take the heater hoses off under the hood, flush them out using the garden hose. Push it from one side of the hose and then to the other side. If a bunch of crud comes out, pray that you keep flushing it, then it'll work. Because if it's the blend doors, one, you can't analyze it yourself without a high-level scan tool like I have. And then, let's say it needs a blend door. You got to tear the whole dash apart. It's going to cost a small fortune if you pay somebody to do it. And if you've never taken a dash apart in one of those and you try it yourself, you can destroy all kinds of things. So pray flushing the heater core will make it work. Well, I guess you can only copycat so far. Jeep sued an Indian company called Mahindra. Mahindra has the Mahindra Roxor. Looks almost exactly like a Jeep. And it turns out that the U.S. judge said that Mahindra is guilty of trademark infringement. They are going to cease and desist, that they shouldn't be selling these in the United States because they are copyright infringing. Now, I gotta say, it looks just like a Jeep. It doesn't say Jeep or anything on it, but it looks exactly like a Jeep. But it still has to go to the International Trade Commissions, and that isn't going to be done until March of 2020 probably. Rather hilarious because they are working on an updated model anyways to make it look a little bit different. I guess they realized somebody was going to sue them because it looked just like the Jeep. All I have to say for that is it didn't say Jeep. I personally wouldn't care. Look at all the cars. They look exactly the same. A Camry looks like a Mercedes, looks like a Honda, looks like a Nissan, looks like a Kia. I see them going down the road. I've been a mechanic for 52 years. Half the time, I got to look at the wheel to see what symbol. Is it a Nissan, Mazda, Toyota? What is it? You know, you can't even tell. What, are they going to start suing each other? Well, that looks just like my Camry. You know, that looks just like my Mercedes. They're all looking the same. I can't understand this. But I guess since Jeep is a rather unique looking thing, you know, it looks Jeepy, and there's been so many copycats over the years, but they just decided to take it to the umpteenth thing to sue them so that they can't sell them in the United States at all. I looked it up. They haven't sold that many of them anyways. I mean, it's not like they're selling like hotcakes, and the Jeeps themselves aren't well made anymore anyway, so it's kind of like the hot corn of kettle black. They got a cease and desist order, and the international trade is going to decide in March whether they're going to say they can't make them anymore. They're redesigning them anyway, so by then they'll probably look different and they can't do anything about it. All right, things are getting crazier and crazier. Uber just filed for a patent, and it's for autonomous cleaning systems for autonomous vehicles. Not only are they planning on making vehicles that drive themselves, they're also trying to make vehicles that clean themselves. They have a patent and they're working on something with autonomous arms that sweep and clean the seats and stuff. I guess they're planning on the Uber autonomous driving cars are driving you, but then people are pigs and leave a mess, so the car has to clean itself before the next people come in. But come on now, like Scotty says, it's going to be a long time before there's autonomous driving cars on the roads with everybody else. There's too many glitches, too many software problems. But the idea, the very idea of making a patent for a system that cleans a self-driving car, so not only is it a self-driving car, but a self-cleaning car, sounds a little bit absurd to me. People have taken this futuristic stuff a little bit too far. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.